Hey, what's going on? What's going on? Listen, thank you for tuning in with me. And I want to share a little something with you today. I want to share a story with you. I want to talk to you about how a secret child almost ruined my marriage. And I need your grace and your patience as I unpack this story and ask that you would withhold judgment until we get to the end. Because I believe that me sharing this story of our marriage will help you in yours. And maybe you may not be able to fully relate because you didn't have such scandal show up in your marriage. And you're probably thinking about here's another man that's broke another woman's heart. All of these dudes ain't no good. But I'm just really asking you sincerely to just hang with me for a minute. I believe this is going to be a little bit different. I've been married for 25 years, and in order to properly unpack this story, I have to take you all the way back to the boy who became a teenager, who became a man, who became a husband. And if you'll just allow me this little bit of space, that I think you're going to get something out of it that maybe you didn't expect. Okay? I have your permission to tell you the story? Yes? Okay. Good. Okay, so let me start back. I almost would quote a Tupac line and say June 1671 was the day mama pushed me out of womb, told me, but that ain't where I'm going to start out because that wasn't exactly my birthday, but it was close thereby. It was in June. It was in the 70s. I was born. My dad was not there to sign the birth certificate, and so I didn't get his name, and there begins my story. Now, I got some gaps of that story filled in later in my life that helped me heal with my biological dad, but that's a different story for us to talk through. But in that time and phase in the younger ages where he wasn't really there, he was fighting his own storms. He was going through his own life challenges. He was dealing with drugs. He was dealing with alcohol. And I would later find out that he was dealing with a father who was not there because his father was murdered when he was 6 months old. And I didn't know all that. So dad's not there. I grew up in a pretty much predominantly matriarchal family. I grew up not knowing I was poor. We had government cheese and we had powdered milk and we had the cornflakes and we had cinnamon or sugar toast that we would do, and that was a real treat. My mom, she struggled with alcoholism earlier in my years, but she was a good mom. She was a good mom. My mom was my hero. In fact, my mom was so much my hero that it wasn't until I was a full grown adult that I could love her fully when I could really see that my mom also sometimes played the villain. And that let me love her comprehensively. But again, that's another story. But in growing up the way that I did, I grew up in a home before my mom married again. I grew up in a home where I always kind of felt like I was the black sheep. There's a number of reasons of that. I don't want to air out too much family laundry in that regard, but I kind of felt like I was the one. I was told things like, "You're gonna be just like your daddy. You're gonna be." I was told things like, "You're mannish. You're bad. You're trouble." I was told those type of things. And growing up as a boy, figuring that I was bad and mannish and gonna be like my daddy, and I didn't even really know my daddy, so I don't even know what that really meant. But I later grew to say, I guess that means I'm not gonna be around. I'm gonna be in and out of jail. Those things were spoken. All of those type of things. And so I guess being that black sheep, I grew up with a cousin who's really, really close to me, and we grew up kind of like brothers. But he was kind of favored. He was the favored child of sort. There was high hopes and high dreams for him. Now, I don't even know if the adults in my life recognized that they had this mindset towards me and the mindset towards him that was completely different. I don't know if they fully got that, but that's what happened. So here's what happened is growing up with this cousin who's like a brother, there would be times where if he would tear up his toys, but my toy was okay, that my toy, because I was just a couple of years older than him, my toy would be taken from me and given to him. And if I protested, I was threatened with a whooping. Okay. There was an incident where we had Power Wheels and I kept mine charged and I took care of mine, but something was wrong with his. And it's like, well, let him ride yours. I don't want to let him ride mine. And I was told this, well, you better let him ride it because you too big for that anyway. If you don't, you're going to get a whooping. I was told things like that. Now, fast forward to a time where my dad's not there, and I received something that I was told that my father had brought me. Man, I got a gift from my dad. I got a gift from my daddy. And I don't know if that's ever true, but all I could think of is I got a gift from my dad. Man, I cherish this gift. And it's this little airplane, and it was gas powered, and it was like on a string, and you would take the string, and after you crunk it up, and if you went like this, it would go up, and you go like this, it would go down, and you could do some little tricks with it. And my uncle at the time helped me get it started, and we got it out there, and I was playing with it. Man, I was excited. My daddy brought me something, and it was one of the coolest toys ever. The other kids in the neighborhood, they have nothing like this. So I was proud about it. I was excited about what my dad got for me. But here's what happened. My dad got this for me, and my little cousin wanted to play with it. I didn't want him to play with it. I said, I don't want him to play with it because he's going to tear it up. And I protested. And it's like, nah, he going to play with it. Just he ain't going to tear it up and this and that. Yes, he is. He going to wreck it. He going to crash it. And under threat of a whooping, I had to let him play with it. What my dad got for me. And sure enough, he got it. And sure enough, the plane went up, plane came down, plane crashed into the side of a ditch. Catches on fire. That's the last time I played with that plane. There was promises to get it fixed. I cried and I threw a tantrum, and I was threatening, I better hush or I'm going to get a whooping. Such happened in life for a good little bit and at different points, and then we moved away. But I still had similar things kind of happen. I came to identify them later as a kid, I had my boundaries bulldozed. They didn't respect my boundaries. And so I grew up just accustomed to letting people overrun my boundaries. Fast forward, if you will, I get married. Here I am, this kid, this guy. I've taken on this huge responsibility, and I'm married now, and I have this wife, and we're going through all of the challenges that come along with two people becoming one. And one day, I forget how many years it was into it, man, we had went to Orlando a few years before and brought some, went to the Nike outlet, and I had these really nice Nikes. They're like almost like a khaki or Desert Storm type beige with orange trim. They look like they're netted together. They were the most comfortable shoes ever. And I have a wide foot and I have a flat foot, and these were my most comfortable shoes, and I loved them. Well, we moved into our new home, and I left them in the garage for a little while, and my wife decided that she would throw my shoes away. And one day I went out looking for my shoes. I said, hey, what happened to my shoes? I don't know. What shoes you talking about? And finally we went back and forth, and I knew she could tell I was hot. And she's like, oh, I threw them things away. You weren't wearing them. I said, why you threw away my shoes without my permission? Why? And man, the argument blew up big time. And I was heated about my shoes. I might even cussed a little bit. I mean, you talking about you threw away my stuff without my permission, and you ain't talking to me about my stuff? Come on. Fast forward to some years, little things like that kept happening. And it kept happening. And it eventually got me to a place where I felt like there was no space for me in my home. Then one day, I was having a conversation with someone. And in that conversation, they revealed to me that I had a secret child. And that secret child was probably something that's hiding in the back of my mind the whole time. And until I faced the truth and confessed this secret child and accept this secret child myself and confess this secret child to my wife, that my marriage would probably not get any better. This secret child was revealed and came up in 2023 while I was sitting down with my therapist. And my therapist helped me to understand that those arguments that I was having with my wife had nothing to do with, yes, they were legitimate issues to discuss, but they should have never gotten to the intensity that they did. They got to the intensity that they did because of the secret child. This secret child, let's just call him Buck. This secret child is the child who had his boundaries bulldozed over and over again, and he was hiding behind Damon. And anytime he got an opportunity to show up, and he usually showed up when his boundaries were being bulldozed, he showed up and he threw the same temper tantrum that he threw when his plane was crashed. He threw the same temper tantrum that he threw when his power wheel was taken from him. He threw the same temper tantrum whenever his boundaries were not regarded and were not respected, and there was no one there to protect him. And so when he became this adult, when he got to be a full-grown man, he didn't put childish things away. He magnified them. Because he could now defend himself. And he said, come hell or high water, I will not let anyone bulldoze my boundaries anymore. Now that I knew about it, I had to figure out, how would I deal with him? How would I care for him? How would I provide for him? And I want to share with you, because maybe you haven't had a secret child. Maybe your little girl or your little boy is all tucked away, squared away. They've never reared their ugly head. Maybe they've never had a reason to. Maybe they were well-mannered all along and you're perfectly fine. But for those who are not, I want to tell you some things that this child needs so he can stop disrupting and destroying your marriage, because he's not trying to hurt your marriage. He's just trying to make sure that he feels safe. And the first thing he needs is a safe place. That safe place has to be a place in which he can be himself and reveal himself and let you know he is there, to be acknowledged and know that he is okay to come out. Why does he need that safe place? He needs a safe place so that he can have a conversation, so that you can have a conversation with him. And that conversation is to help get an understanding of what happened. To talk about why he felt or feels the way he does, why he keeps showing up in your full adult marriage of 25 years, why he keeps showing up at the most inopportune times, why he keeps making mountains out of molehills. He needs a place to talk about it. He's tired of getting bottled up, because being bottled up is similar to having his boundaries bulldozed, because it's a similar thing. Just like people didn't respect his boundaries and they essentially said, you don't matter, therefore I'm going to do to you what I want to do to you. He says, when you don't talk to me, you're telling me that my voice doesn't matter. So not only does he need a safe place in a conversation, he needs an apology. He needs someone to apologize to him, to say, I'm sorry that this happened to you. But let's not let those moments become our monument that ruin our future selves. Next, he needs a promise. He needs a promise of protection, that he can bring his concerns to you, the adult version of you, and that you will take those moments and care and protect and listen and defend so that y'all can be okay. And lastly, he needs an understanding. He needs to understand that it's okay to love and be loved. He needs an understanding that it's okay to communicate without aggression and anger and bitterness and resentment. He needs an understanding that he no longer needs to be the guardian of y'all's boundaries because you got this. And he can stay in a child's place. Listen, that's all I have for you today. I pray that this video is a blessing to you and that you will have the conversation with your little boy or your little girl so that your secret child does not continue to dominate and ruin your marriage. I'll see you on the next video. God bless.